project, the first time was in 2000 when I gave a presentation at the AGC conference for the impact of technology. And it's been a slow path, but it's really accelerating now. And it's really exciting because a lot of the foundation that's been laid over time is now proving to be, not only functionable, but ready to go. And a lot of the legislation that's passed over the years, has created a foundation. So it's really now just a matter of connecting the dots. So that's why I'm excited that everybody seems to be recognizing that they all have a dot. It's my belief that there is a foundation that exists. We don't need new standards. We need to use the standards we have and to continue to grow them, in particular the XBRL standard. I don't need to go into it now. But the bottom line is we need to be able to convene around a common interest and a common mutually benefit outcome. And that's why it's so important to have NIBS at the table, because your innovation network and the whole thing that you've done, as I mentioned, what I'm talking about is on the shoulders of many. A lot of those shoulders are done by NIBS. So I feel bad for them. I sort of did a data dump on them when they first met me. I've been sort of chasing them like, hurry up, let's go boil the ocean. But I do think that the network we bring can come to NIBS and actually deliver on a roadmap that we can work on so that by May, we've actually implemented something that is going. I'm already implementing it, and everything I'm doing is open and transparent, which is why I'm so engaged with universities. Our objective is for everybody to know how this works, not by exclusivity, not by endorsement, but because it's plug and play. So that's what I see as the big picture of convening everybody toward a common goal. Now I'll turn it over to Jay to give a little bit of background on NIBS and what he's looking to do.
Sure. Dixon asked me to share the NIBS innovation cycle, and I think most of you probably already know NIBS or somewhat about us, so I'm not going to go like super deep or anything at the moment. Yeah, of course.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, I'm gonna let's see, I'll bring up the screen here, and it should record the screen, I believe. So let's do that. Okay, so this is a graphic we like to use, and I think it just expresses the positions of a lot of us in the room. Some of us overlap in a few different areas, but NIBS tries to sit at the center of this process and create connections to dots, just like Dixon is doing. So, though, we as employees at NIBS aren't the only ones that are doing it, we try to create space for that to happen where possible. A lot of that is done through councils, through standards efforts, through influencing or inspiring sort of research agendas, which we've been invited to do by Dixon and others as well recently. And also, we actually do project work, consulting work for federal, state, local, municipal government as well to take all of these things that are being done and apply them to the industry. We have sole source authority written into law by Congress in the 70s that allows us to do that. So we try to take, as a nonprofit, we take a lot of these things to the federal government to help them enforce and develop processes to use open standards and just best practice in industry, new technology, those types of things. So I think, where standards fit on this cycle mostly revolve around this side over here. And inspiration drives research. That research typically turns into standards and policy, which gets implemented by government. We are none of those things, but we help the process. We do hold and house some standards at NIBS, but not all of them by any means. Just where there's a gap in industry for a standard, sometimes we'll sit as the holding body for that, such as the National BIM standard. We don't hold the XBRL standard. We don't hold the LOD standard. There's lots of them being used, but sometimes we do hold them. Either way, we want to try to help integrate the standards where possible. Those standards then guide design and construction and the actual application of those standards to take advantage of the efficiencies that they provide. And then ideally, those deliver better infrastructure to building owners and occupants and users and folks like ourselves who live and eat and make memories with their families and coworkers in these spaces. Um, that's the overview I had, Dixon. I didn't want to take a ton of time. Got a quick call here, but is that what you were looking for me from?
Uh,
You're on mute, by
yeah,
the way, Dixon.
yeah. If I could ask a question, Jay, I, I'm new to NIBS. In fact, I don't have a lot of knowledge. Is it like an independent institute, like think tank, or is it part of the government?
Yeah, so NIBS was put into place by Congress in 74 to be a non-government, nonpartisan, neutral, nonprofit organization. We're sort of like a kind of a ghost in a way in terms of like structure. We sort of float on our own with the sole mission to act on behalf of the American people when it comes to building science and technology. So we if we make any money, it goes back into standards. If we do projects, they're specifically selected to have an impact on the industry. Things like design and construction, we don't do that. There's lots of other folks out there who do that well. If it's a novel technique that needs sort of circulated through industry and help with adopting, then we can step in to help with that adoption cycle. But um, that's our main role is to be sort of like a neutral advisor and lifter of the industry.
Yeah, that's very important. Yeah, thank you, Jay.
Mhm.
Yeah, and so again, Phil, you're coming from one university, Kuilin, you're coming from another, Calvin, you're coming from another. Jorge has been with me now for a while. Jorge, can you describe what you're trying to do at Texas A&M and how you as a mentor, look forward to meeting the other mentors and having your students engage with their students to collectively, inspire creativity? And, that's kind of the goal of the AI contracts.
Okay, so basically, I have been in this business since about 45 years ago, from my graduate studies through Stanford, Purdue, Georgia Tech, in the last 20 years at Texas A&M. My goal throughout all of this has been in actually aligning the interests of everybody that participates on a construction project. And I define myself as a child of CII, the Construction Industry Institute. I've been on the advisory board of ECC, Engineering and Construction Contractors, and several others. So it's not about my resume. My goal is I have been teaching for, again, almost 20 years, a course to undergraduates from multiple colleges. And it's all based on the whole idea of innovation, creativity, design thinking, entrepreneurial thinking, and digital thinking. And I crossed paths with Dixon in one time that I gave a talk. I have given too many talks. But the point is that I have identified three things that have been consistently endeavors, but at the same time lacking in execution. Number one is that all the voices and all the mentalities and all the people that participate in a construction project are tremendously diverse. And no matter what kind of approach you have for managing that, it's still, in many cases, herding cats. I discovered notes that I did when I was in grad school that still apply to the industry today. So the innovation cycle in the industry, it's in spurts and in different areas. This is way back when knowledge-based expert systems were starting to rise into anything. So I don't define myself as a technology user, but I define myself as a facilitator and an intermediary of looking at everything. I had the opportunity to be dean of the College of Architecture that also has construction and urbanism and all of that. So I live at the intersection of multiple disciplines. And what made me connect with Dixon is that there are three elements that I know are necessary when you're trying to do something really innovative. Number one is pluridisciplinarity, which means many disciplines without getting into the in-depth of inter, multi, cross, trans, and all of that. It's basically being able to bring together people in a formal organization where you don't have to pay or pay. It's like a sandbox, and that is a collaboratory. And in today's world, what has happened is that it needs an infrastructure that is cyber infrastructure, which is another official term for the platforms in which they operate. And in the case of our industry, and what with Dixon we have been trying to do, is create also an observatory of knowledge that is applied and actionable. When you have that, it's like having a smorgasbord of opportunities, which you can then pick and choose whatever plate you want to do. So I live in a very nebulous kind of space, but I'm committed to seeing change in the industry, and I applaud what we're trying to do with Dixon. One person that you will know is Carson, who is one of my students. And when you get a knock on the door that says, you changed my life because of what we saw in the classroom, that validates for all the failures that I may have had as a professor. So that's in a nutshell who I am.
Talk to other university partners about how to attract a student. How did you find Carson? What do you think as a student you're looking for, as a mentor to university?
Precisely, we established a startup Aguilan, which was an incubator for students, and they do need guidance. They don't need to be taught. Sometimes they're the ones teaching us, but the reality is that they do need to navigate the realities of professional life. And all you need to do is not teach, but create an opportunity for them to learn. And I don't see any student as putting my knowledge into their brains. It's actually unleashing their inner agency to make change. And that's what sets me apart from many of my colleagues who are teachers and they instruct and they have their syllabi and all of this. It's about connecting with them in a different kind of way. And I am focusing more on the skills that they need to survive the future, the cognitive skills, the interpersonal skills, the digital thinking skills, and also the idea of self-leadership, self-accountability, and all of that. So yeah, I could basically engage in a conversation. That's very much, but the students are going to be our future. I mean, I'm looking at all of us, and I have a lot of white hairs that can basically tell a story that I've been around for a while. But the legacy is not going to be a degree. The legacy is not going to be a GPA. The legacy is not going to be any of that. The legacy is what they are inspired to do. And that's where it is. I'm on the National Academy of Construction. I've been on the Pan American Academy of Engineering, and I have been inspired by many, many giants. And that's kind of what I'm doing. I just like to hang out. I'm a groupie of great people with great minds that inspire me every day.
All right. Don, I'm going to call on you. You're one of the stakeholders that are trying to develop a contractor system. And so clarity on how contractors will need to plug and play obviously advances your ability to deliver software. You were part of the CURT group that brought us together. You want to talk a little bit about how you see the importance of this convening to create clarity around just one data set and what it can unleash?
Well, sure. First thing I want to say is how much I appreciate Jorge's insight and perspective on where our industry is and where it needs to go. So I really appreciate that. I'm kind of working on a greenfield platform for the construction industry. We're starting with a clean slate. We're not bringing along any legacy technology or techniques. And so we're looking to see how we can have an impact on the industry, starting with hopefully the Dixon.
Well, you froze it for a little bit. All right. So, Paul, if I could touch on you, you've been one of my inspirations. What are you looking, if NIBS were to ask you, what do you want from this summit? What would be your answer to NIBS so that we can provide you what you're looking for?
Clarity. That's the outcome I'm looking for. The XBRL that you introduced me to with Al Berkeley was something that is already an institution in the financial world. The clarity that I'm looking for is for how we can transpose the success of XBRL in the publicly traded company world, and how that reporting happens to the SEC. I'd like this to be an effort that we have the clarity and the direction, with NIBS being the overall entity that's guiding along this standard, so that it could be implementable in existing workflows and potentially changing workflows. With the endeavor that I'm on right now to take a software company and create a services company out of it, this is going to be a critical element of that. We're not going to create the software company to be a bank, but to be the connector for all transactions using blockchain. Right now, we have under construction right now what will be the world's most used and most valued blockchain in the world. We've incorporated some amazing agentic AI in order to help with a lot of that. That's going to start first with smart contracts. So we have a mass customized way of localizing contracts, all sorts of contracts, not just the AIA versions or the AGC versions, but mass customized versions through Zetlin and DiCiara, the number one construction law firm, contracting law firm in the country out of New York. And this mass customized way of doing that is then going to take into account that the blockchain is actually a general ledger. Now you start to see why XBRL becomes a really, really big deal, because now all of a sudden I can actually do all transactions on every local project around the world instantly. This will also create a way of creating data that is trusted because of the immutable data way of how blockchains work. And I'm looking forward to hearing more about how people see the standard being used, because I'm looking to implement, like you said, not just have a PowerPoint with a really cool idea. This is going to be a big deal because this company that I'm taking private is very large, huge customer base, and we can actually do something about changing the world. So it's good to see people that I've worked with since the beginning of my career in here. Roger, hello. It's one of these cool moments that we are seeing an alignment both outside of our industry and inside of our industry, that the transactional models of a financial services company that the world's never seen before is possible. So I'm looking forward to hearing more, Dixon. Thank you.
So, David, I'm going to hit on you. David and I met a long time ago. David, you've been involved in a number of trade associations working on standards, and we met at the Digital Twin Consortium, which was a combining of the OMG group, which we dealt with way back when. Describe, if as somebody so familiar with standards, how we can put together a summit that synergizes your legacy into something for the future. You're on mute.
Yeah, I'm kind of here as a last minute hanger on, and I'm glad for that. But I mean, in some, I mean, I've been down this path before in oddly comforting ways. I mean, this is the construction side. I was headed up strategy for McGraw-Hill Construction in the 90s and was deeply involved with SIFI and other organizations, including NIBS, in many different ways. But then some years later, I was asked by the chairman of the SEC to step in and create the national XBRL program for companies and ultimately other entities. In my current role, I'm at the Enterprise Data Management Association, which is both OMG for creating of standards and DTC, the Digital Twins Consortium, and creating new standards for, in this case, standards for a digital twin kind of future. This has been done before. It's a difficult and lengthy or could be a lengthy effort, but it really requires the kind of passion that I'm hearing here from folks, and the kind of leadership, leaders from both the finance side, the construction side, presumably also from the technology side, in order to make what could be a very long effort become intense and manageable and generate real benefits. I mean, the benefits can be enormous from this, and I'll stop there, but I'm keen to be helpful in every way I can.
Well, I appreciate that. And so, Phil, I'm going to jump over to you. You've been so gracious and possibly hosting us on May 5th. What are you looking to get out of the deal, and how can we create a summit that is good for your university and for your students?
Oh, definitely. Thank you, Dixon. So just for everyone, Dixon and I met at the Digital Twin Consortium. That's what David just mentioned about. That's really a nice place to talk about this. I had a long conversation with Dixon about the digital transformation, starting from the early computers to the digital earth, and then looking at the cloud computing, big data, cyber infrastructure. Now we finally nailed down to digital twins, which kind of is driven by the problems, but with the objective to solve the problem. I think that's different from any of those previous digital transformations. So we're really keen on this, working together, and really thanks to Dixon for bringing this wonderful team together from the financial side, from the accounting side, from the building science side. I think this is the mix you need to have innovation going on. And specifically for us, we have students working together. In fact, we are running NSF SRC on spatiotemporal. I'm in the geospatial domain and looking at the problems from the geospatial side, for example, using satellite remote sensing, in situ sensors to see how the building footprint has been changed, like the data center. And also looking at from the transportation side to see how the building being put up is impacting the safety or open it up or block some views, and how the project has been helpful or not so helpful. In fact, also that's for kind of solve some problems. And we do want this opportunity to working with everyone, especially with Dixon, to help us understand better about the buildings, how they impact transportation and transportation buildings, and how they closely relate to each other. So I'm in a learning process on building side, in fact, but really excited to see what could happen, what innovation could come out of this. But digital twin, yeah, that's something we are focusing on. And we're also working with Virginia Tech and Harvard to try to put together an NSF SRC, just focus on digital twin, but on geospatial side.
Well, thank you very much for being part of it. And Calvin, if I could ask you for a quick moment on, obviously, the BuildingSMART initiative is one of those data standards we want to synergize. It's a big player along with the Digital Twin Consortium. What can we do to make it a successful summit for you, for your students, and how can we make it to where your objectives are met?
Thank you all. I'm Calvin Cam. Joining me here, it's Tony. We also have Janice and Min along with me. With Strategic Building Innovation, we are a boutique management consulting firm looking at how to bring technology applicable, how to bring innovation for an AI nowadays, and how we can fill this gap and maybe some proof of concept. So we're exploring, we're here to learn. And along also with Roger and Jay, among other, and my teammates here, we are all part of volunteers for BuildingSMART, BuildingSMART USA, BuildingSMART International, how this may fit with international standards, information requirements, information exchange, how we can also promote what we do internationally. I think that's also something we're exploring. My third hat is that I'm with Stanford. Saifi, great to hear Saifi a couple of times here from David, from Jorge. I serve as a Zhang professor, so I also would love to see how we can make that tie. So I'm here to learn.
So hopefully the no rules deal and creativity fits perfectly with your model. So I'm going to close with one of the last ones, our men, or Janice, if you wanted to say something, or Kuilin. I know you've from Michigan Tech University. If you'd like to introduce yourself, or if you have any questions, you're welcome to.
Hello, everyone. This is Kuilin Zhang from Michigan Tech. I'm professor in civil engineering, particularly on transportation. I just learned this opportunity from Dixon with my colleague Chaowei. I just, my first time to learn this. Hopefully, we have our student to join this activity. Thank you.
Well, welcome. And yeah, it's a little overwhelming, particularly when you first hear about it. But I think as time goes on, we hope to make a very valuable contribution to each one of you, for each one of your universities. And we hope to get a great experience for the students that participate. And then at the end of the day, we can unleash the power of data standards that we've all been working on through the years. And I'll let Jay close with an invitation to May 5th.
Well, I guess Phil and Dixon and I have some logistics to work out, but yes, we'll an agenda, I guess, too. We're going back and forth on some things, but yeah, I hope if you're in the DC area or can make it to the DC area, it'd be good to have everyone there to sort of expand on the conversation and take things further.
Jorge, I keep talking about boiling the oceans, and he keeps trying to say, no, focus, buddy, focus. You can't boil the ocean. So again, I really appreciate everybody's contribution. This will not be a one-man show. We hope to make it a synergy that brings together a lot of talent, that when they see each other personally, start to make the personal connections that actually help move this ball forward. So it's 59 minutes to the minute, so I'm going to close it up, keep it with a half an hour. Thank you all for letting us have part of your busy day.